Greetings and salutations, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Game Break. I am Charles, coming to you today with Without Within 2 Part 4? I think we're up to Part 4? Yeah, that sounds about right. Last time round, Vinty went on an adventure and tried to track down her hotel and kind of botched the whole scale aspect of her map in regards to just how long it would take. And I believe we left off with basically it's about time to actually go to the actual convention and whatnot and play with all the other calligraphers. So let's dive right back in. Yes. Oh, right, she went out for dinner, was the thing. Found a nice little cafe. Oh, the lady clasped her hands together. Staying in the hotel up the road, I'm guessing. Welcome to Melbourne! How are you finding it here? Oh, it's been a little over a week, so I forget all the voices. Fun. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I got to visit the sky deck today, so that was neat. The Utopia Tower or something, right? Eureka, actually. I've never been. The lady scratched the back of her head. It's always the locals who take these places for granted. You know how it is. As I'm not a local, no, I don't know how it is. Oi, get back to work. A man's voice shouted from the kitchen. He must be the chef, and perhaps this lady's husband as well? Whoops! Shit! The lady winked at me before running into the kitchen. I would never catch a flight attendant swear like this, yet sometimes when people chose to act all formal, I might as well be talking to robots. The restaurant let me loose my breath and undo my collar button, as in, you know, if I had one. The lady came out carrying my beef noodles. After placing the bowl onto my table, she jogged back behind her counter, most likely to avoid getting told off again. I scooped up some soup with my spoon and took a sip. The heat burned my tongue a little, but this soup tasted so good I hardly cared. In my hungry state, I took only 5 minutes to empty the bowl. These noodles filled me up more than that first-class meal I had with Excelia, and it cost less than half the price. I wondered if reaching the top meant I must abandon these simple pleasures. A sacrifice I felt ready to make, but it would still bum me out. As I walked up to the counter and paid the lady, she patted me on the shoulder. Come by again sometime, okay? I had enough trouble paying my rent, so I might never have a chance to visit Melbourne again. Still, I gave her a nod before leaving the restaurant. Now that I no longer had to worry about getting lost, I let the evening breeze caress my hair. Having spent most of the day in starvation, it sure felt nice to be full for a change. After crossing the road, I returned into my hotel and exchanged nods with that guy at the lobby as I strode by. A clock on the wall behind the staff read 10 p.m. Maybe this place had 24-hour check-in, which would mean I had sweated a bucket over nothing. I let out a yawn as I rode the elevator back up to floor 1. For your information, I happen to be an early sleeper. After returning to my room, I changed into my pajamas. The light fabric of these short sleeves provided me with the comfort of being at home. I flopped onto the queen-sized bed and rolled around, causing my blanket to slip onto the floor in protest. Just for one night, I could experience how royalty slept. I just hoped this room had no security cameras because I was acting like a 5-year-old right now. Rain began to pelt against the glass doors that led to my balcony. Only a drizzle at first, but the droplets then smashed down with full force as if begging to be let in. Within the sky, already dark, I had no way of knowing about this rain. Warm during the day, then freezing cold, and now this. The weather here reminded me of a moody child. Thank God I had already made it inside. If this rain fell while I was lost out there, I probably would have shed tears. My luck must be turning around. Wait, I still needed to hop on social media to see if Excelia had promoted my works as promised. I scrambled out of bed and grabbed my phone, which I had left inside my clothes on the carpet. After connecting to the hotel's Wi-Fi, I jumped onto the calligraphy subreddit. There it was, right on the top of the page, a thread titled, "Fellow calligrapher asked me to share this," posted by Excelia. Let's see, 27 comments. That was more than all the threads I had ever created combined. Excelia's words sure drew a lot of attention. 0 upvotes, but oh well. With my trembling pinky, I tapped on the thread to read the comments. This is not going to end well, is it? Latest comment. Wow, this calligrapher begged Excelia for a plug. Shameless much? Jeez, I would downvote this twice if I could. What's with that photo? It's so blurry. Oh well, the real thing probably looks even worse. This person had some real guts wasting Excelia's time with this trash. Well, people always said there was no such thing as bad publicity, right? Probably. Maybe? Hopefully. Did Excelia really have to mention that I had asked her to promote me? If I had known her choice of words would suck this much, I never would have bothered making the request. Took all I had to refrain from hurling my phone at the mirror. Instead, I slammed my phone onto a table by the bed. My anger boiled the room, making it feel like the inside of a microwave. I flipped off all the lights with so much force that I almost chipped my nail. The room turned black, making me feel like I had fallen into a bottomless pit. After letting out a heavy breath, I clawed onto bed and tossed the blanket over me. My mood might be to blame, but this blanket felt like sandpaper scraping against my arms. With my pulse still pumping from anger, I shut my eyes and I tried to get some sleep. Shameless. Downvote. Worst. I twirled around in bed in hopes of finding a pose that would help me fall asleep. In fact, I almost rolled off this queen-size bed at one point. Nothing I tried worked, as those spite-filled comments kept echoing in my head. Eventually, fatigue took over, and I managed to sneak in an hour or two of sleep. Transition! Yay, transition time! The rising sun peered through the curtains and ruined my slumber. As I opened my eyes, I insisted that the Reddit comments from last night must have been nothing but a bad dream. I threw my blanket onto the ground and jumped out of bed to pick my phone off the table. The second I unlocked my phone, those same comments appeared on my screen once more. No need to even wait for a page refresh before reality struck me right on the forehead. Just great. So much for taking another shower before leaving. I had no energy to even comb my hair. It took all I had just to brush my teeth and change out of my pajamas. Excelia's show took place at Federation Square this afternoon. I should get going soon. Hold on. Would the other calligraphers recognize me as that shameless girl on Reddit? If so, they might roll their calligraphies into balls and hurl them at me. This hate would hopefully die down after a few weeks. Showing my face the very next day, however, seemed about as wise as kicking a lion in the crotch. Yeah, not advised. Excelia never posted any photos of my face onto that thread, so I guessed it should be okay. Besides, I had accepted a grant for this trip, so I had an obligation to attend. Yeah, maybe just this once I would use that YOLO saying that the kids like to toss around online. I had no clue what it even stood for, but YOLO swag. That hurts. After strapping on my backpack, I left my room and rode the elevator down onto the ground. A woman stood behind the counter in the lobby ahead. The man from last night must have finished his shift. "Good morning," the lady said. I caught her lips twitch, and I had a pretty good idea why. When I left my hair uncombed, my head looked like a mop after toilet cleaning. YOLO swag, though. "I'm heading to the city," I said. "What's the best way to get there?" The woman pointed at the automatic doors. "You can catch a tram from across the road. It'll take you straight to the CBD. Have you got a Mikey card?" I shook my head, and the lady pulled out a green plastic card from under her counter. "Lucky last." She placed the card on the table. "There's a news agent just around the corner to your right. You can charge up the card there." I said my thanks, accepted her card, and exited the hotel. When I stepped out, I found a tram stop in the corner across the road, just like the lady said. But first I turned right and headed into the news agent. The shopkeeper snored on his feet behind the counter. All the other shops on the street were still closed, so I guess he should be forgiven. I tiptoed up to the counter, trying to let this guy nap for just a few extra seconds. "Excuse me." The man continued to tilt his head towards the side. I felt conflicted about whether to feel annoyed or be impressed that he could snooze while standing. I shifted a birthday card's display up to his side, hoping he would nudge into it and wake up. The man swayed and bumped into the stand, causing these cards to spill all over the floor. "Sorry," I muttered. I just wanted to wake you up." The man yawned, letting me smell his morning breath. "It's the third time this week. Don't worry about it." I waved the Mikey card in my hand. "Can I top this up here? Just enough for a few tram rides?" $20 should do it. I pulled out my wallet and handed him a $20 note along with my card. The man pressed my card against the scanner on his table and it made a beep. "There you go." He dropped the card back onto my hand. I checked both sides of the card as if expecting some sort of number to show up. The plastic card showed no change whatsoever, which meant I must place my trust in this half-asleep guy. Might as well be going for a skydive with the parachute given to a monkey. So, what will happen if I have insufficient funds when I get off the tram? The man answered with his snores as he had fallen asleep again. "Oh, forget it. I left the store, crossed the road, and waited at the tram stop. Beside me stood a chemist store that had yet to open. I checked out some of the sunnies displayed behind the glass. If I bought a pair, could I look as big time as Excelia? I heard a honk behind me and I spun around to see an oncoming tram scaring away a flock of pigeons. Good thing those birds had forced the driver to honk or I might have missed this ride. I waved at the tram and it slowed to a halt next to my stop. Once again, I had to skip across half a traffic lane in order to board. Unlike the free CBD tram from yesterday, this one required me to tap on it with a Mikey card. Trying out new things in public never failed to make me sweat, as I felt like everyone had their eyes on me. There was a scanner positioned next to the door, so let's give this a shot. I pulled the Mikey card out of my wallet so fast I almost fumbled it. After pressing my card against the scanner, a green dot lit up on the panel. This should mean I was in the clear then? I exhaled in relief and brought the card back into my wallet. When I gazed up at the passenger to show them my achievement, I realized none of them were even looking at me. The clock had yet to hit 9, so I never imagined these carriages would already be so full. This tram was heading for the city, so I guessed it made sense. From the outside, these carriages looked so stable, but now that I was standing inside, I needed to grab a handrail just to stay upright. Meanwhile, a guy beside me was eating his kiwi with a spoon while standing. He must be a local veteran, being able to stay balanced under this kind of condition and all. The tram still had several vacant seats, but there were quite a few elderly passengers on board, so I decided to spare the chairs for those who needed them most. Riding on the CBD tram from yesterday felt like a trip to the past. These green and yellow models, without a speck of dust on the carriages, resembled a plastic garden to me. Once every minute or so, the tram would stop to let passengers board and alight. The frequent pauses made me wonder if I would be better off walking. Of course, it was only an illusion. Within minutes, we already crossed a bridge that had scared me so much last night. The tram rounded a tight bend, causing me to lose my balance and bump into a girl who had just finished tapping her card against the scanner. Huh. Oh, Vinty! Wait, why is she so tall? The girl turned out to be Excelia. I had almost failed to recognize her in those gym clothes. Her gym shirt and bicycle shorts revealed to me how much more feminine she looked than I did. I caught some of the nearby men stealing peeks at her chest and bottom. Well, I had the curves of a tree trunk, so I never had to worry about being checked out like that. Excelia had sweat seeping out of her forehead and arms, yet she still smelled as nice as the shampoo I had used last night. The sparkles around her continued to flash as always. In fact, the tram driver put his sunnies to block her out. I wanted to confront Excelia about what happened on Reddit, but her big glittering eyes melted away my anger. To begin with, I was the one who hassled her into promoting me. Faulting others would only make me sink lower. A couple of passengers came walking towards us from the rear end of our carriage. Their eyes were on Excelia the whole time, of course. They took out their phones, but Excelia waved her hands to indicate no photos allowed. The duo limped away with their heads hanging between their slumped shoulders. Must be tough without your guards around, I said, trying to hide the sarcasm and jealousy in my voice. Excelia scratched her head, looking a bit embarrassed. I like to be alone when I work out. You know, it's nice to live like common folk once in a while. I gazed into Excelia's eyes to see if she had meant for those words to be condescending. She blinked at me, looking as innocent as a newborn sleeping next to a puppy. Seriously, with a tongue that sharp, Excelia might as well be feeding me poo coated in chocolate. That would not be appetizing. Or polite. This must be why some celebrities hired advisors to keep their mouths and keyboards in check. Excelia could sure use one of those people. Maybe I should ask if she was hiring. Still, I got to witness Excelia's work ethic firsthand. Exercising while on the road and all. If I spent my time running around instead of envying, maybe I too could have a figure like hers in, like, 5 or 10 years. Good luck in your show this Arvo, I said. I'll be there to watch. Oh, thank you. I hope you'll have fun, Excelia said, grinning once again without showing her teeth. Thinking about it, I have never seen her teeth in any of the posters or commercials she appeared in. Maybe she had braces on or something. Well, I'm going there to learn, not to have fun, I said, puffing my chest out a little. For just a moment I swore Excelia's eyes narrowed into a glare, but her usual smile returned before I had time to react. I gazed out the window and recognized some of the tall buildings we passed. This tram had taken me back into the city in under 30 minutes. A male announcer spoke through the speakers and said something about us arriving in the free tram zone. Excelia pulled a sweaty Mikey card from her pocket and tapped it against the scanner. Quite a few other passengers began to tap their cards as well. Maybe trams in the CBD were free then? I followed suit, almost dropping my card from the nervousness. Excelia seemed to know what she was doing, no matter where she went. Knowing her, I bet she had been invited to visit Melbourne many times before. Excelia pressed the stop button on the handrail, and the tram parked behind a traffic light before opening its doors. I'll see you soon, Vinty. Excelia gave me a light bow before exiting the carriage. She probably had a 5-star hotel booked in the city somewhere. I alighted the tram several stops later to buy breakfast from a convenience store. No better way to begin the day than eating a cold sandwich with egg that tasted like it had expired 3 days ago. When I exited the store, 2 trams crossed paths in front of me. The drivers exchanged nods with one another. With so many trams around, I wondered if the drivers had to greet every colleague they saw. Oh god, it's the map again. I pulled out my paper map, which looked more creased up than it did yesterday. Some of its edges had even been chipped off. No, I might be stingy on food, but not quite to a level where I would eat paper. The pieces must have fallen into my backpack somewhere. As I chewed on my sandwich, I scanned the map for my destination. Federation Square. A 10-minute stroll from Collins Street, which was where I stood right now. I put away my map and started to walk. Interesting. Right as I finished my sandwich, Federation Square appeared into view opposite a pedestrian crossing. A spacious plaza, perfect for showcasing calligraphy. Calligraphers had already begun to gather around the square. Oh dear. A good few of them were taking photos of Flinders Street Station located across the road. Even without doing a head count, I could tell there was well over 100 calligraphers here. I just hoped none of them would recognize me. Okay, seriously? Horse carriages formed a line on the road opposite Federation Square. Were these carriages for hire? Riding on one seemed fun, but that would have to wait for another time. I crossed the road and joined the other calligraphers at Federation Square. On the far side stood a couple of designer buildings, but the crowds had blocked my view of them. This guy standing next to me was on the phone and said something like, "Yeah, I'm on Fed Square." That must be what the locals called this place. Maybe I should start saying that as well to blend in. Ugh. Those girls from the sky deck yesterday sat on the steps. No doubt complaining to each other about life again. One of them glanced up during their chatter. Our eyes met for a moment, yet her expression showed no change. She must have already erased my face from her memory. Fine by me. A man in a dark suit and red tie walked up to me. "Are you a calligrapher?" I nodded, and he handed me a brush along with some ink, followed by a roll of parchment. "Excelia is scheduled to arrive at midday," he said. "Until then, all calligraphers are invited to showcase their works around the plaza." For a moment, I had hoped this guy might have been an agent who was scouting me as a potential talent. Dreams would always be dreams. Several other event staff issued the same gear to the other attendees. Nothing special about me, in other words. One by one, the calligraphers unrolled their parchments along the concrete, dropping onto their knees, and got to work. Some of the calligraphers took out their phones and snapped photos of their blank canvas. I bet they would post these pictures on social media and talk all big like they had already made it. In the corner, a girl was tracing some signs in the air with her fingers and mumbling to herself. Must be a ritual of some sort. Meanwhile, another man sank onto his knees above the stairs, slapping his palms together in a praying position. I guess he was channeling strength from the calligraphy gods. Come on. The staff had set up barricades to reserve a circle of space in the plaza. This must be for Excelia when she showed up. The staff had saved her more room than the rest of us combined. I peeked at other people's works as I straightened my parchment across the ground. These guys might be weird, but once they put ink to paper, their strokes look quite refined. As I put down my backpack and lowered onto my knees, I wondered if I should draw a star in the air. Without any rituals, I felt as dull as a pack of original flavored chips. Sorry to the original fans out there. My fingers trembled as I dipped my brush into the ink container. This was the first time I performed in public, after all. When I worked alone in my room, I held my chin high like I had no equal. Now, I felt like everyone had their eyes on me, waiting to catch a mistake so they could laugh in my face. To my side sat a boy with his parents standing beside him. He too had a brush in hand, but he had dipped in too much ink, causing half of his page to turn black. With a slip of the hand, the boy painted a stroke across the pavement. Those poor parents bowed frantically at the event staff while their kid giggled at the chaos he had caused. Well, I knew I had more skills than at least one person in here. I wiped some sweat off my brows, feeling a little relieved. Great, so I would even use this innocent child for a morale boost. It usually took me around an hour to complete a piece of calligraphy. Today, I needed the same amount of time just to paint one stroke. No way could I allow myself to mess up in public. Fed Square was a tourist attraction, and as afternoon approached, more and more people started to show up. These tourists loitered around the plaza, eyeing our works with their arms either folded or locked behind their backs. I felt like a child having her homework critiqued by the teacher. Once in a while, I would point my brush toward the sun, trying to look all artisty. Whenever someone walked by, I would stand up and stroke my chin, acting like some sort of master. 3 hours passed, and I at least finished my piece. Just as I completed my final stroke, the plaza erupted into whistles and applause. Oh, had these people finally recognized my greatness? Nope. The crowd separated, forming a lane for Excelia and her 2 guards to walk through. Should have known these people would never cheer for the likes of me. Heaving a sigh, I too joined in with the crowd. The phone cameras clicked non-stop as the audience snapped pictures of Excelia. Her guards put up their hands, signaling the fans to stop, but they had no way of keeping them all under control. Excelia! The fans shouted over one another to try and get their idol's attention. Excelia, may I get a photo with you? Can you sign some autographs for my kids? And 2 for me, of course. I can't believe I'm standing this close to Excelia. For some reason, this all sounded kind of familiar. The afternoon sun, combined with Excelia's sparkle, forced some of the fans to put on their sunglasses. As Excelia strutted by, the staff extended their hands to her. Excelia's guards shook their hands in her place, and the staff frowned like they had just lost the lottery by a number. Oh. One of the guards accidentally stomped onto my parchment as he marched by. Way to leave a footprint right in the middle of my work. The whole page now reeked of dirt and grass, so thanks. Several other calligraphers gasped as the guards trampled on their works as well. At least I had some company. Now all of our works looked like doodles from preschoolers. A 3rd guard ran up to Excelia from behind, holding a roll of parchment nearly twice his height. The guard dashed on ahead and unrolled his parchment across the space those staff had reserved. The 3 guards formed a triangle around the parchment and stretched their arms out. Those staff had already set up barricades, but apparently the guards preferred to serve as human shields. As Excelia walked up to the parchment, an event staff offered her a brush. Excelia shook her hand to indicate there was no need. The audience began to whisper in anticipation, and I too held my breath as I prepared to witness Excelia's famous routine. Excelia reached inside her sleeve and pulled out a gold brush. There it was, just like the way she always did it on TV. The crowd let out a woo, with a few muttering in envy under their breaths. From her other sleeve, Excelia fished out an ink container studded with diamonds. With a gear like that, I almost wondered if she had some kind of allergy to plain black. Excelia's hair billowed in the afternoon breeze. The crowd fell silent as she put down her container, opened the lid, and dipped her brush into the ink. And we're going to have to find out what calligraphies, what she puts down to paper next time, because we are out of time for this episode. Hopefully you're having fun with me as we find out what Vinty gets up to in Melbourne, and just what is the deal with Excelia? What makes her so talented in regards to calligraphy compared to everyone else? And will Vinty be able to learn any secrets or tips of or tricks of the trade? We'll have to find out next Friday. Until then, go have some fun. Go play some video games. Go check out some other people's stories. Go create your own stories and share them with everyone else. And in summary, go be creative. I'll see you all next time.